All right, we are live and I see the audience trickling in. This is the audio check as well. So those of you who have joined us in this session already, if in the chat window you can tell us the city and the country you are dialing in from, it would be great for us to know where our audience is coming from. So if you're able to hear me, just in the chat box, quickly type out the city and the country you're dialing in from. Okay, I don't see any. Okay, I see the responses coming in now. So Amar from Hyderabad, India. I see Karina dialing in from Mumbai, India. I see Amir from Guntur, India. Keep those responses coming in. We would wait for a couple of minutes for our audience to dial in. I know a lot of people have signed up for this session. I'm expecting a few hundred to be in this session by the time we really start the proceedings. So in the invite, let us know the city you're dialing in from. Great. I see Shreya from Bangalore. I see someone from Gurgaon, Chennai, Jaipur. So all across India, Ronak from Lucknow as well. Those of you who are dialing in from India, if you can let us know about that as well. If anyone is out from outside of India right now, let us know the city and country you're dialing in from. Okay. I see Daniel from Ghana. I see Mrudal from Bangalore as well. Great. So welcome everyone. My name is Sanjay Dhingra. I'm one of the co-founders and the chief operating officer at Seed Global Education. We are a firm which specializes in such interactions. Those of you who have interacted with us in the past, you'd know that we bring some of the top schools in the world to visit various undergraduate campuses in India, Middle East, and Africa. Of course, the four schools on the panel that we have today, they have traveled with us in India as well. All of them were here with us in September 2024. They would be coming back again in October 2025. And it's my pleasure to introduce our panelists to you. We have, as I mentioned, we have four schools represented over here. I have Mark Khan from Boston University's Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. I have Jenny Chow, who's a graduate admissions officer at Columbia Engineering. Kathleen Huggins from George Washington School of Engineering and Applied Science. And Liana Kuvalis, who's the Director of Recruitment and Enrollment Marketing at NYU Standen School of Engineering. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you are keen to interact with them. I'm going to allow them to talk to you shortly. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves more in detail to you. But before I do that, what we want to do is grab some insight into our audience. And consequently, I am going to launch our first poll for the evening today, which is live on your screens right now. So if you're able to see this poll question, the question is, which intake are you targeting to start your STEM masters in the US? It could be in the engineering, it could be basically a sciences program, but anything related to engineering and sciences, if you're targeting that, which intake are you really targeting? Are you looking at the fall 2025, which would be the August 2025 intake? Are you looking at spring 2026, which would be Jan 2026? I missed out one option about summer 2026, but assuming not many schools have summer intakes. If any of their schools do, they'll let you know. But my next option over here is fall 2026. And if you're targeting anything besides these three options, then choose the other option. I'm going to keep this poll live for the next few seconds. So if you haven't responded, please do respond. And we would be ready to show the results to you and start the proceedings of today's session by the post that. I already have 185 plus people in this room right now. I'm expecting a few more, 100 or more to join. But those of you who are in this room, a sincere request, please do respond to this poll. It's always good for us to know where our audience is coming from and what stage in their journey are they currently at. Great. With that, I am going to end the poll and share the results shortly. You can see the results on the screen now. Around 32% of our audience is targeting the fall 2025 intake. 13% are looking at spring 2026, another 20% targeting the 2026 fall intake, and the remaining one third are currently undecided. Maybe they're exploring some other intakes or maybe later years as well. Great. With that, what I want to do is get into the mode of inviting our panelists to talk to you, talk to you and introduce themselves. In today's session, as I mentioned, we are speaking with admission officers from four leading US engineering and sciences schools, and we are going to understand from them what they look for in prospective applicants like yourself. They will also answer your questions towards the end. So I'll ask them some questions on your behalf first to start off. Post that, we will open the floor to your questions as well. So in case you have any questions for them, you can post them in the Q&A box. And you can also upload questions asked by others to show that that question is relevant to more people than the person asking the question. As a special benefit to attendees of the session, all of you have become eligible for exclusive application fee waivers to apply to the MS programs offered by the 4 participating schools. Just a quick confirmation to the 4 of you on the panel. All of you would be offering application fee waivers today. Do I see nods? Great. So the audience, all of you who are here, you have become eligible for an application fee waiver to apply to the MS programs. Not just that, you have also become eligible to the special scholarships that many of them offer through the SEED 3.5 million plus SEED scholarship fund. If not, if any school doesn't, then you have also become eligible to the SEED STEM leadership scholarships worth $5,000 that we offer for our partner schools that don't offer exclusive scholarship with us currently. With that, I want to open the floor to our panelists. I want to invite Mark Khan from Boston University to introduce himself first. We'll go in an alphabetical order, but Mark, the floor is with you for the next 2 minutes.
Awesome, thank you. Going to share my PowerPoint. There we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Khan. I am the Director of Master's Marketing Enrollment at Boston University's Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. BU is one of the largest schools in the Boston area. There are about 18,000 graduate students, 37,000 students overall, and there are 17 colleges that fall under the BU umbrella. Some of the resources that will be available to our students include wonderful advising, amazing career opportunities. I do urge students to take advantage of the resources available on each of our wonderful campuses. As far as our programs are concerned, we have 40 different master's programs, 30 PhD programs. These range in STEM programs all the way through engineering, which I unfortunately do not work for the engineering school, but I'm surrounded by illustrious engineering colleagues. So I wanted to make you guys aware of what we offer there as well. In terms of scholarships, to piggyback on what Sanjay said, we do offer 10 seed scholarships of $10,000 each, but we do offer scholarships that range up to 50% tuition. Our priority deadline is January 15th, so creeping up very quickly on us. But our final deadline is March 15th, and typically we will look at applications after that on a space available basis. BU is a research-centered institution, so it's no surprise that we spend a lot of money on research. So far, it's over $500 million. There are over 200 companies that are developing or selling products that have been founded here. So if you want to be in an environment where that's the kind of entrepreneurial mindset that you can adapt to, I would say that BU is certainly a place for you to look into. So thank you for your time, and I'll pass it back to Sanjay.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Thank you for that brief introduction. Next up, I want to invite Jenny Chow from Columbia University's Fu Foundation School of Engineering and Applied Science to tell us more about her school.
Hey, hi, everyone. Oh, thanks, Sanjay, by the way. Let me go ahead and share my slides. All right, great. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. I'm so happy to have you all. My name is Jenny. I am the Graduate Admissions Officer at Columbia Engineering. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about Columbia Engineering and the programs we offer, all right? All right, so I want to start off by a little historical background. So Columbia University was founded in 1754 as King's College. We're the oldest higher education institution in New York City, as well as the 5th oldest in the United States. And in 1864, the School of Mines was founded. This was our original name. We're now named as a Fu Foundation School of Engineering and Applied Science, or Columbia Engineering for short. We're also home to many innovations, such as the invention of FM radio, creation of short exposure X-rays, as well as mass production of antibiotics. On the right side, you see that we have 9 different academic departments. I'm not going to go through them because it is a long list, but feel free to look at the slides. And I do encourage you to go on our website to research more about these different departments and if they align with your interests, all right? Moving on, a little bit about our fellowships and scholarships. So at Columbia Engineering, we offer something called the fellowships. Essentially, they're the same thing as scholarships. You get money to help fund your graduate education, all right? But one of the main fellowship I want to highlight is the Chartershish Inter-School Fellowship Fund. This is the 3rd one on the list. So this fellowship is specifically for students from India. I do encourage you all to apply to this fellowship since it is specifically for students from India. It does require a separate application in addition to our online application. So make sure you do submit that as well when you submit our application, all right? And I want to talk a little bit about our deadlines. So for the fall intake, we have the doctoral deadline, which already passed, which is December 15. We do rolling admissions though, so if you're still interested in a doctoral program, feel free to apply. It's okay, even though it's a little bit after the deadline. But make sure you apply as soon as possible. And finally, we have the master's programs deadline, which can vary depending on the program you choose, which range from January 15 to February 15. All right. That's it for now. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, Jenny. Next up, let me invite Kathleen Huggins from George Washington University School of Engineering and Applied Sciences.
Okay, thank you so much, Sanjay. Always happy to be here to speak to all of you. As Sanjay said, my name is Catherine Huggins. I work here at the George Washington University, specifically the School of Engineering and Applied Science. We're located in Washington, D.C., which we had a big snowstorm over the weekend, so everything's looking a little bit like a winter wonderland right now for me. But I'm happy to talk to you about our university and about the School of Engineering specifically. We are located right in the heart of the capital city. We're about 5 blocks away from the White House, 2 blocks away from the World Bank and the IMF and other large international organizations. We have 6 academic departments. Those include biomedical engineering, computer science, electrical and computer engineering, civil and environmental engineering, mechanical and aerospace engineering, and engineering management and systems engineering. So we're a little small. We have about 1,100 students studying at the graduate level within our school, but we try to have a deep breadth and depth within those areas of focus. Our faculty do get to have this one-on-one relationship with our students. And our main hub is the Science and Engineering Hall, which is where I'm speaking to you today. We have some research areas, including a high bay with a strong wall and a strong floor. We have some high resolution imaging suites, a class 100 nanofabrication clean room, and much more that students do get to do research within and to get that opportunity to really work with their faculty on hands-on applications of their research and their fields of study. We do offer master's and PhD programs. Our master's will be typically 2 years in length, while our PhD programs are typically 4 to 6 years. It will depend on whether or not you are entering with a prior master's. So we do allow students to apply direct entry with only a bachelor's to a PhD program if that's something you know you want to do right now. It will obviously be a little bit competitive during the application review process. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that pathway might look like if you're interested in doing that. In terms of scholarships, I know Sanjay mentioned, of course, that there is the SEED scholarship to be considered for, but we do also offer other merit scholarships at the master's level. That looks like a 25% scholarship, a 50% scholarship, all the way up to a 75% scholarship. Obviously, the higher that competitive and the fewer awards we are granting. Doctoral funding is where you're going to see the more typical full funding through either a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship, where you are working directly with your faculty advisor in their lab or in their classroom and getting a living stipend as well. In terms of application deadlines, this is a great time to be speaking to me because our fall application deadline is next week. It is January 15th. For PhD, that is a hardline deadline. We do not accept late PhD applications. For master's, that is the priority deadline. So if you want to be considered for one of those scholarships, please get your application in by next Wednesday. Otherwise, we will continue to accept applications beyond that. We are GRE optional. And for attending today's session, of course, you all do get an application fee waiver. It's right here, SEED Panel 2024, 2025. Should have updated that. But thank you so much for listening to me. And that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Kat. Next up, let me invite Liana Corrales from New York University Stanton School of Engineering to tell us about her wonderful school.
Thanks, Sanjay. Also very happy to be here. Am I still muted? Oh, I got a notification.
We can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I just got a Zoom notification that I needed to unmute. All right. So I am representing the Tandon School of Engineering at New York University. We are also located in New York City, as you can imagine. NYU is the largest private university in the country, and we have various different campuses around New York City. So our main campus is in Washington Square in Manhattan, and then the engineering school is located across the river in Brooklyn. A very short little subway ride back and forth. We offer 31 graduate degree programs just in the engineering school across 11 departments. We have a lot of the same facilities and services that my colleagues have mentioned. But one thing I wanted to highlight with our career services is that they are helping you straight from when you get admitted. There's a summer program, the Summer Career Academy, which helps you with your interview prep, resume, kind of navigating the US jobs market so that when you arrive at campus, you will be able to jump right into interviewing for internships and really knowing how to access the services at NYU. I've highlighted just a few of our MS and PhD programs here on this slide. Like I said, we have 31. These are some of the most popular that we have for our Indian students. We also are GRE optional, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means later on during the panel. The application fee waiver is here on the slide, but if you don't have time to note it down, we will be sending an email to all participants later on with the fee waiver code. And as for scholarship consideration, we also offer merit-based scholarships. Everyone who is admitted to a Tandon program is automatically considered for a merit-based scholarship. And so you don't have to fill out any separate application. You'll receive the answer about a scholarship the same time you receive your admit decision. Our deadlines are similar. Our priority deadline has already passed, but the final deadline is February 15th. And these dates will be the same for those of you who are applying for fall 26 and beyond. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, Liana. Thanks to all four of you for those wonderful presentations. What I want to do, as I mentioned earlier to the audience and those of you who have joined us late, we are over 300 people in this room right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask exactly 8 questions from my end to our 4 panelists, so 2 questions to each panelist. Then I'm going to open up the floor for audience Q&A. So if you have any questions for them, you can post them in the Q&A box. You can also upvote questions which have been asked by others. And I'm going to pick up the most upvoted questions to ask them. We have around 45 to 50 minutes more for this session. And through this, our goal would be to give you as much insight possible so that you can ace the application process to these top-ranked US schools. Great. With that, let me start my first question. And Mark, if you want to take this up and tell us who's an ideal applicant to US STEM programs, right? Who's an ideal applicant? And what do schools like yourself look in such applicants? What are the factors you evaluate the applicants on?
Yeah, this is a question that a lot of students are curious about because they always want to stand out and they always want to know, well, what's my competition? There is no perfect answer to this perfect question. That's because there's so many factors that are considered. We all employ a holistic review process, and students do bring a wealth of knowledge, experiences, backgrounds that aren't just always encapsulated in a GPA and a test score. So I urge students, regardless of where you are within those dynamics, to strongly consider what are the things that you're going to bring to the table that perhaps are different than the other students in the pool. So when we're looking at candidates, we're looking for the strength of writing, we're looking for your ability to communicate, we're also looking for your ability to succeed. And we're going to look at your past experience and your academics to kind of gauge what that looks like. So ultimately, there is no perfect applicant, but there are many students who we see that will be perfect fits for our program.
Great. So, Liana, as Mark mentioned, right? No perfect applicant, a lot of factors to be considered, but you see possibly hundreds and thousands of applications from India. How does a candidate stand out in such a pool, right? Select number of seats, massive number of applications. How does a candidate stand out? And secondly, and this is a question which has come up in the Q&A already, is about the role of standardized testing. So does GRE, GMAT, not GMAT in this particular case, but does GRE still play a role even when the score is optional to submit?
Yeah, thanks, Sanjay. I'm going to just expand on what Mark said in a minute, but in terms of the GRE question, that's going to be something that is a little bit different, perhaps, for each of my colleagues. For us, all of the faculty have developed a system to review the application without the GRE score. And so generally, I tell people that if you took the GRE for another school for some reason and you got a very, very high score, like nearly perfect on the quantitative section above 165, then maybe submit it. That would show that you have the quantitative skills available for most of our programs. However, if you just get an average good score, it's probably not going to affect your application at all. And anything below that could potentially hurt your application. So I really encourage you not to worry about it. It's an extra expense. And so if you're applying to, like I said, any of our 4 schools, it's not required. But again, if you had to take it for another purpose and you got a really, really good score, then you can submit it. What I wanted to add to what Mark said, Mark's comments, is that, you know, all of us traveled quite a bit in India. I was just there in December for 2 weeks talking to students all across India. And one thing that I've noticed is that when I talk to Indian applicants, specifically, you are all looking for some sort of magic formula to crack the code on making a perfect application. And I get questions such as, how many internships should I do? Are internships better than volunteer experience? Are they better than research? What if I don't have any work experience? You know, just trying to calculate, should I have 1 research project or 2? What if I don't have any publications? You know, you're looking at the things that are good for your application. Obviously, academics matter quite a bit, and anything you've done academically is important, but there is not a secret code, and you're competing with, you know, thousands and thousands of students from across the world, as Sanjay mentioned. And the thing that's really going to make you stick out, the only thing that's unique to you, is who you are and your story. And I think, you know, we have a lot of students on here from India and also students from Africa. My experience traveling to both of those countries is that you are all extremely passionate people, extremely passionate about your work and about your future and about the things that you're doing. And that doesn't always come through when you're trying to figure out a calculation. So for example, I spoke to one student when I was in Chennai last month. And he was very nervous about applying to our Masters of Technology program because he hadn't done any internships. And, you know, he's like, well, I've only worked for my family's business, and I'm afraid that I'm not a good applicant because I don't have all of these things. And I was like, well, tell me your story. He was a chemical engineer. His family in India owned a chemical company, and his goal was to really take it to the next level, to introduce it into a global market. That's an amazing story. That makes him very unique to be able to have a clear goal of why he wants to come to a graduate program and how he's going to use that graduate program to, you know, work with his business. It was a perfect story. Your story is what makes you unique. So that's just what I wanted to add to Mark's comments. Thank you.
That's wonderful, Liana. That's wonderful insight. So focus on your own story, see how you're unique by yourself compared to the other applicants, and that can really help you stand out in the application process. Jenny, I want to bring you in next and ask this question around credential evaluation. Grading scales across Indian institutions vary massively. Some use a 4-point scale, some use a 7-point, 10-point, or some use a percentage. And these scales can vary across the world with other institutions as well. In such a scenario, how critical are academic credentials? You're having a third-party credential evaluation done for their grades, for their transcripts, important for an applicant. And how do they play a role in the evaluation process for a school like yourself?
Yeah, of course. I'm gonna tell you all like a tool that is very great for GPA conversion as well as grade conversion. It's called Scolario, GPA converter. That also helps you. I know India, you use the grading system of you start with O sometimes and then A plus and such. So it's different from the US system. But Scolario does a really good job in helping you convert those letter grades, also helping you convert those GPA. So make sure when you are submitting your application to utilize that tool to really help you and, you know, ease out those grade conversion. So in terms of the third-party evaluation at Columbia Engineering, I can speak on our behalf. We don't require it until you are admitted. So right now, you just need your unofficial transcript, and we do require you to convert your GPA. So like I said, I believe Kat did put that tool in the chat. Thank you so much. Make sure you use it. It's a great tool. I highly recommend it. And the second part of the question is how important is your GPA? I'd say, of course, all of our schools are pretty competitive. So of course, having a good GPA will help you out. But that's not the only singular factor we're looking at when it comes to reviewing your application. We don't just look at your application and go, oh, he or she has a B. That's a no, right? We do something called the holistic review. My other colleagues have mentioned. This means that we look at every single aspect of your application, and for us, we weight them equally. So it does matter that you have a great GPA, but if you only have a great GPA and you neglect the other aspect of your application, such as, you use ChatGPT to write a personal statement, or you don't have a strong letters of recommendation, that might mean that you might not get in just because, we're looking at the holistic application. So we want you to try your best on every single part of your application. All right.
Great. Thanks, Jenny. Thank you for that tip on the tool. It's very interesting. I hadn't known of it before, but I'm going to go and check my credentials as well. Kat, I'm going to bring you in next. This is around research experience, and there are some questions in the Q&A already come up about this. The role that research background plays in the evaluation process for STEM programs in the US. Is it really required for a master's program, or is it mainly relevant to a PhD program? If you can touch upon that as well.
Yeah, of course. So this is kind of going to go back to the same thing that everyone else has already been talking about, which is the fact that we do a holistic review when we're considering applicants. So what that means is that there is going to be value in having research in your background, but that doesn't mean that if you don't have it, that you're negatively impacting yourself heavily. It depends strongly on what you want to do in your graduate studies. So if you're looking to apply for a master's degree, a lot of students get their research experience during their master's study. So it's not quite required that we're looking for bachelor students straight out of undergrad to have years of research experience. It's perfectly okay if you're coming in with none at all, or maybe only a semester project that you might have helped with. When we're really looking to see some research background is maybe if you're applying directly for a PhD program. You're going to have to do a dissertation during that research. During that program, you're going to have to come up with your own theories, your own questions, your own project that you're going to work on independently with guidance from your faculty advisor. So having that background is certainly going to help you in that application review process, especially if you're coming in with only a bachelor's degree without a master's. Having a dedicated research experience, having done a project, maybe even having some publications in your background, certainly are going to help you to become a stronger candidate to be considered for a PhD. But for a purpose of just applying for a master's, if you're hoping to work in a professional career capacity after you graduate, maybe you just don't want to do research. That's also okay. It just depends on what you're hoping to get out of your graduate study. So I hope that helps.
All right. Kat, since you touched upon this, just a follow-on question. Does the admission criteria for PhD programs vary compared to a master's program? I have a question from the audience as well, who already has a master's from India. So are you looking at something completely different in a PhD program?
Yeah, so in terms of application requirements, they're typically going to be the same. We're going to be asking for copies of your transcripts, letters of recommendation, statement of purpose, resume, CV, things like that. There might be some differences in the numbers of recommendation letters. For example, we tend to ask for a higher number for PhD review. That's really the only major difference between our master's and PhD materials. But the review process will be different in the sense that our master's programs, my office is more heavily involved in the review process of that. We make recommendations, the faculty then come in and take a look. For PhD, my office is not involved. My office is there to make sure everything is submitted, and then we pass it on directly to the faculty, because PhD students are going to be working so closely with their faculty advisor throughout those 4 to 6 years. Our faculty are making a big commitment when they're offering PhD admission. They're also going to be offering that full funding offer that we talked about. So the considerations that they're making are are you a good fit for the program? Are we a good fit for you? Do your research interests align with what our faculty are doing? Do we have availability? Sometimes you might be an amazing PhD candidate, but the perfect faculty member for you might have just onboarded 5 new students in the last year and might not have availability at that time. So sometimes it's just about timing. So PhD review, very unique. It's totally okay to have questions about that. That's understandable. You can always reach out to us. We might be able to put you in touch with faculty. You can also speak directly to some of our students. My website has a platform called Unibuddy, where you can message directly with a few of our PhD students to talk about what their experience was like. But yeah, PhD, the application materials, pretty much the same. The review process, a little different.
All right, great. Thank you for that insight, Kat. Uh, Liana, I want to bring you in next. This is around the statement of purpose. So all of your applications, if I'm understanding this correctly, all of your applications require 1 or 2 statement of purpose when a candidate can clarify their goals or reasons for wanting to come and study at your respective institutions. Now, what are the common mistakes that applicants do when they're writing such statement of purposes? What common errors do you see while reading their applications?
Yeah, there's a couple major ones that stand out. One of them is more recent, which was mentioned, that some students are using ChatGPT to write their essays. I really encourage students to use that tool for grammar, for editing, that sort of thing. But you may think that it sounds like a good essay, but it's very obvious when you're reading a lot of essays in a row, if they've all have the exact same format and the same tone. It's very obvious that you haven't written that yourself. So that's one thing. Please use it as a tool, but make sure that the voice is your own and that the content is your own as well. The other thing would be to make sure that you answer the prompts that are asked of you. All of our schools probably have a slightly different prompt for our essays. And so please, I know it's very time consuming, but make sure you write a different essay or edit your essay to really align with the prompts that we're asking. And then last but not least, I would say that every part of your application is extremely valuable real estate. So you have a resume that you're submitting, which lists your accomplishments and basically the outline of the things you've done. This is a very important part of the application because faculty and reviewers can use this kind of as a guide to who you are and what you've done. But you don't want to go into your personal essay and then just repeat everything you've put in that resume. We already have that information. And so you want to make sure that each piece of your application really adds something different to to the story that you're trying to tell us. So the essay is a great place to say you mentioned a project that you did in your resume. Essay might be a great place to say, I did this project, this robotics project in secondary school and in undergrad, and maybe that's why I want to study mechatronics and robotics or whatever, like it's a good place to provide color, but make sure you aren't just relisting all the things that you've done. So I would say those are probably some of the biggest mistakes that people make.
All right. Thank you, Liana. Thank you for that response. To the audience, one tip from my end as well. Get the university name correct. Don't make a mistake over there. If you're applying to BU, make sure that you're applying to the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences and don't confuse it with BU Engineering. They are separate schools within the same university. Same at NYU, Columbia, and GW. There are many schools involved or many universities located in the Washington, D.C. area as well. So make sure that whichever school you're applying to, you get the university name right in your application. That's a sure red flag if you mix that up. So be very careful about that. Jenny, I want to bring you in next on the letters of recommendation. So Kat also mentioned that their application, the numbers required may vary from university to university, but who are the relevant people that students or applicants can go to get their LOR?
Yeah, of course. Happy to talk about it. Let me first talk about the types of recommendation letters. And depending on the graduate program, they might require an academic recommendation letter or a professional one, or both. In our case, we want 2 academic letters as well as 1 professional. But again, this can vary between the graduate school. So make sure you do your research Some of the schools don't care of which type, but make sure you do your research and you submit the right type, all right? But essentially, the academic letters should come from the professors who've directly taught you in class, who's given you a grade, whereas the professional letter should come from a supervisor from your internship, from work, or maybe from a research lab that you participated in, all right? And in terms of who you're gonna ask these recommendation letters from, you should look for someone who you have a close relationship with, who knows you well. So a lot of students fall in the trap that, hey, like I want to ask someone who has a high title. I think this would impress the admissions committee. Not really, if they can't really talk about you. If they're gonna write, I only know them from email exchanges. I don't know them that well. This is not a great recommendation letter, right? So make sure you do look for someone who you've established a good relationship with, who can talk about your strengths, not only academically, but also outside of the classroom. So I see a lot of, recommendation that from recommenders who doesn't really know the student well, who only talks about the student's grades. But we can tell that you're a great student, you had good grades based on your transcript, right? So your recommender should be telling us something new. What about you makes you unique? Who are you as a person? Maybe you're a hard worker. Maybe you have a fun, bubbly personality. There's all great things we want to see, and also new things that can be added to your application, all right?
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Jenny. That's been insightful. My last two questions to our panelists, and then I'm going to open up the floor for the audience Q&A. A quick reminder, if you have any questions, you can post them in the Q&A box. You can also upvote the questions asked by others. I'm going to pick up the most upvoted questions to ask our panelists. The next question, which I want to go to and change track slightly, and I want to talk about visa pathways. Those of you who have heard of these, you would have heard of F1 student visa, you would have heard of OPT, CPT, and I always found those terms very confusing. And Catherine has been the best person to clarify those for us in the past. So I'm going to come to you, Kat, with this question. Can you lay out for our audience the various pathways that graduate students can use to come and study in the States, and finally the kind of visas they use to work in the States as well?
Yeah, of course. So if you choose to study abroad in the United States, most likely you will study on what's known as an F1 non-immigrant student visa. So what that means is that you will apply to several universities, you'll get your admissions offer, you'll choose the school that you actually want to enroll in, and then you and the university will work together to issue a certain document called a Form I-20. This is actually the document that has all of your biographic, programmatic, financial, and school information that you will then use to apply for your F1 visa at your local US embassy or consulate. You'll then go to that interview, you'll answer the consular officer's questions, and then hopefully you will receive that F1 visa, which will allow you to physically travel to the United States and begin your graduate study. Now, because it's a non-immigrant student visa, what that means is that you and the US government are entering into an agreement about what your purposes is for being in the US. It's to be a student. It's to go to class, take your exams, go to office hours, and really further your education. What that means is that there are going to be restrictions put in place as to when and where and how long you can work. So during the first year of your academic program, you are restricted from only working on campus. You can't get an internship off campus, but you can work in the gym or the library or dining hall part-time, which is about 20 hours a week, and you can earn money that way. After that 1 year is when you become eligible for OPT. That's optional practical training. And that is the part that allows you to actually engage in work off campus. So you'll work with your international services office, or whatever their name is at whatever school you apply to get OPT so that you can then work off campus in a job related to your field of study and get hands-on practical experience in your field. If it's during the summer break, you can work more than part-time, you can work 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours, no one will stop you. You can suffer if you want, that's okay. And then you can continue to do OPT into the second year of your program and so on for a certain amount of time. After you graduate, all F1 students become eligible for something called, nope, I said OPT earlier, I meant CPT. CPT is the thing that lets you do it during your program, curricular practical training. OPT is what you do after you graduate. I haven't done this spiel in so long, Sanjay. Not since this September. After you graduate is when you get OPT, optional practical training. That is what allows you to stay in the United States after you graduate for at least 1 full year, no matter what your field of study is, and get that full-time work experience in the US. For some students in select STEM programs, you qualify for the STEM OPT extension. So the STEM OPT extension is what lets students stay beyond that 1 year. They can actually do an additional 24 months, so a total of 3 years of work experience in the US before you ever have to apply for a new graduate program, return home, talk to your employer about sponsoring you for a work visa, or anything of that sort. So you'll most likely study on an F1 visa. You can do CPT during your program. And after you graduate, you qualify for OPT and some STEM programs, which I believe all of us, our programs are STEM programs, qualify for the STEM OPT extension. There we go. Sorry, I messed
Thank
it up a little.
No, thank you, Kat. Thank you for doing this. It's always insightful and great to hear. And this is going to be my last question to the panel before I open up the floor for the audience. And Mark, I want to bring you in about the job market in the United States. Over the last 1, 2 years, we have heard some negative news come out. There were some layoffs by tech companies. And then, of course, there's a upcoming change in the political situation as well, or the governance in the country as well. So in this scenario, how are you seeing the job market for students who are looking to start their studies in the States in 2025? Most of these people would graduate in 2026 or 2027, so it's kind of a little bit of predicting the future. But how are you seeing the job market evolve over the next few years? And what kind of support universities like yourself provide to the students so that they can meander through this challenging environment?
Yeah, that's a wonderfully loaded question. I didn't hear anything about the political change whatsoever. So, as you alluded to, there's a lot of uncertainty. We don't know. We can't really fully predict the future, and obviously, I wouldn't want to be held accountable for anything that I say here, as if it's like, well, you said. And that's because there's a lot of unknowns. But what I will say is that our institutions and many institutions in the US are very resilient. Um, we've already thought through many of these scenarios. We've already played through what actions would be taken were certain things to come to pass. And I think that that's something that students can rest assured. We have your best interests at heart. A healthy student body becomes a wonderfully generous alumni body, right? So we want to make sure that our students have both a positive experience academically once they're here, but also once they transition out of our halls into the job force. So many of these approaches are multi-pronged. Um, Bad news travels fast. If Google is laying off people, you'll hear about it before they might even hear about it. However, when it comes to the job market, it's very strong in the US. There's a reason why we're still as appealing to many international students, and there are many opportunities here that I think, we're all located in wonderful cities. We're all located in places that have fingers on the pulse of what's happening in industry. We all have many connections, but we also have alumni that are looking out for our students, right? So that's something that you can at least be assured that there are precautions being taken. In terms of advising, we are upping the ante there. We are working with students earlier. We are engaging with partners and other institutions so that we have plans that are in place. We urge our students, for instance, at Boston University, to have a multi-pronged approach when it comes to your search. Don't just limit yourself to a particular handful of cities. Look throughout the US. There are many opportunities, particularly for STEM educated individuals, that, may be in such wonderfully exotic places like Dayton, Ohio, or perhaps our neighbors to the north. We've had students who've had wonderful job opportunities in Canada, in other countries as well, or in your home institution, your home country. So what I will say is nothing that will happen in the next few months or years will surprise us. We are prepared for those, and we are taking actions to make sure that our students are okay, regardless of what transpires. Hopefully that helps to assuage some concerns.
It surely does. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for being candid and telling us about or giving that assurance to the audience as well. What I want to do is now start taking the audience question. There are quite a few which have come in. There are still 300 plus people in this room that speaks about how popular this session has become. We have been hosting similar panel since the last 2 years. This is our third year, and we have always seen strong interest in this particular panel. So the first question which I want to take up, this is from Kairina Daruwala, who's completed her 3 years BSc in Information Technology program from a NAC A-graded university in India, and she's looking to apply for a MS in Computer Science program in the States. The challenge in her case is her bachelor's is a 3 year program. So do any of you accept 3 years bachelor's for your MS in Computer Science program? If not, then what other pathway can she use to come and study comp science in the States? Anyone who wants to take this up?
I'll start. At Boston University, we do accept the 3 year degree from A-rated universities in India.
Okay, superb. Karina, that solves the problem for you. But I also want to check with Liana, Jenny, and Catherine. Do any of your programs accept 3 year bachelor's degrees from India?
In general, NYU does not accept 3 year bachelor's degrees. Our standard is that you have to have the equivalent of a 4 year US bachelor degree. And so there are students who end up doing, some sort of diploma program or a master's degree before they come. There are some institutions that their degrees are considered equivalent, but in general, we do not.
Yes, so for GW engineering, we do not accept any 3 year degrees for entry into our graduate study on their own. Like Leanna, if you've gone on and you've done a postgrad diploma or a master's in a similar related field to your 3 year bachelor's, you might be eligible, and you can certainly reach out to us via email and we can take a look at your academic background to let you know if you're eligible to apply, but otherwise, unfortunately not.
We're in a similar situation at Columbia Engineering. As long as your 3 years degree is equivalent to a 4 year bachelor US degree, then yes, you can apply.
All right. So, Karina, one option for you is to get the credential evaluation done. That's going to tell you how the equivalency between your 3 years bachelor's compared to a US undergraduate degree. And you can accordingly take a call to top it up with a postgraduate diploma or a master's program before you apply to universities in the United States. Of course, BU has their doors open for 3 years bachelor's from India. So you're, of course, eligible to apply to the comp science program at BU as well. Great.
The caveat is
Quick.
it has to be the equivalent, similar to what my colleague said.
Perfect. All right. So, Karina, you surely need to look at the equivalency. You need to get that checked and accordingly take your next steps. Quick request to the audience. There are a lot of questions which have come in the Q&A box. I can't possibly take up all these questions to ask our panelists. So my request is upvote the questions. Just click the thumbs up for any questions that you're finding relevant, and I'll pick the most upvoted questions that I can for the next 15-20 minutes before we need to wrap up this session. So the next question I'm going to take up is from Ayush Kumar Panja, who's saying he's got some research papers which are yet to be published, though they have been accepted for publication. Can he mention such research papers in his application to earn some brownie points in the evaluation process? Liana, if you want to take this up.
Yeah, of course you can. I mean, you should mention anything that you feel like is a significant accomplishment that has to do with your program. So any academic accomplishments. Especially if you're applying for your PhD program, those types of papers are going to be really important.
All right, great. Thank you, Liana. And Ayush, I hope helps. And my next question, which has come up, is about, do any of your universities have partnerships for research with top scale or top class government organizations? So we know that a lot of US universities do research for the US government as well. Do all of your universities do some research in collaboration with government agencies in the States or government funded organization in the States? Okay, so I see nods coming in, so I'm assuming
What I
all of
would
the top
say
ones
is,
do.
yeah, for you guys to maybe look at where research grants are being awarded to, because many of the grants that all of our universities receive are from federally funded sources, particularly the National Institutes of Health and others like that.
Superb. Okay, next question from Anora is a little specific. I'm not sure how you'd be able to give this advice, but Anora has a BTech in Industrial and Systems Engineering from IIT Kharagpur. It's amongst the older IITs in the country, amongst the most prestigious IITs as well. He's asking for your suggestion on the best field for him to pursue for his master's. Too open-ended?
I'll take that in the
Okay.
sense of graduate study is really going to be self-directed in terms of what program you're applying to. You know, I do not have your background. I don't know what you want to do with your life. We can certainly tell you what programs we offer and what areas of focus are involved and what our faculty are doing research in, but we can't by any means tell you what the best fit program for you is going to be. So for example, at GW, sometimes I get students who come up to me at meetings and they're like, I studied chemical engineering and you don't have that. So what should I do instead? And what I tell those students is if you want to do chemical engineering, you just shouldn't come to GW. That's unfortunately not going to work out. We are too close to the White House to be allowed to teach chemical engineering or nuclear engineering. And so it's really going to be about finding the program that's going to best fit your goals and what you're hoping to get out of a graduate program, because this is going to be a 2-year endeavor. This is a part of your life. It's going to go very quickly, and you're going to have that credential for the rest of your life. It's going to impact how things go. And so really doing the research and figuring out what's the best fit for you is going to help you. So what I recommend is looking at the mentors, the leaders, the people you know that you aspire to be like, and seeing what path they took, what researchers, where did they study, where are they doing their work. That can help maybe guide you to find what program is going to really best align with your interests. Not me, a random person who studied English Lit and international education who works in admissions.
Thank you, Kat. That's insightful. So, to the audience in this room, right, you need to do your research, spend time understanding the programs, the offerings, the pathways that they open, and then take an informed decision. If you, of course, if you need any help evaluating the programs offered at Seed, we do offer a complimentary advising service. So, if you just want to get guidance on the programs and options to look at various universities, we can help you with that. But you need to take a decision basis what your aspirations and goals are in life and for your career. Great. The next question which I want to take, sorry, go ahead,
Sorry,
Liana.
can I just add one really quick thing to that?
Sure.
Just going back to the very first question that you asked me, how do you stand out as an applicant? Not knowing what your goals are is one way to stand out in the wrong direction. So you definitely, before you apply to any program, should know what your goals are, like Sanjay mentioned, and Kat.
Absolutely correct, Liana. Thanks for that. The next question which I want to take up is around the research assistantships and teaching assistantships, and how are those allotted to the students? Do all of you offer RAs and TAships to graduate students?
I can take this question.
Okay, good.
So there's sometimes a misconception when people ask this question that those positions are readily available for everyone. There's every institution uses slightly different language sometimes for what types of jobs they offer their students. So I think what you're asking when you ask that question is, are there any positions that will provide a tuition remission for your program that you could get ahead of time? And in general, for master's programs, that answer is no. These positions that you may have heard of, a teaching assistantship or research assistantship that you're offered ahead of time, are often tied to PhD funding. And so if you're looking for a PhD program, you may potentially get that type of job in an offer letter along with your PhD program, but that also isn't, that's almost uncommon as well. So the way that those jobs really work for master's students is there are teaching assistant positions available for master's students, but those are going to be really once you get to campus, if you do well in a course and you really, get along with the professor, then that might be an opportunity where you could become a teaching assistant. Research assistant, similar thing. If there's a lab on campus that is doing research that you're interested, you could go approach them and see if there are any positions available. But there are very limited options in general, especially for master's students in terms of like positions you might get offered ahead of time.
Great. Anything different at any of the other universities? So Mark, Kat, Jenny, anything different at yours?
I would just add that because computer science for us is one of our largest majors, we do have a lot of undergraduate courses that require teaching assistantships, but to echo what Leanna said, the best in is to actually take the class with the faculty member and ask them after succeeding in the class whether or not they need a teaching assistant. That's 100% guaranteed. If you're getting an A, they'll probably like you a lot and offer you the position that way.
Great. Thank you, Mark. And I hope the person who asked this question, this has been useful and gives you clarity. The next question, which I want to take up, and I'm going to go to the most reported questions list. Shubhangi, your question is specific to Columbia University, so I would suggest that you write to the graduate admissions team at Columbia directly and get a response over there. Or if Jenny decides to respond to your question in the chat, she can do that. But I would suggest reaching out to them directly for your question. So I think Adiyala, I think your question was broadly answered, but let me still take it up to the panel. Mark, Jenny, Liana, Kat, any one of you who wants to take this up, how can students really identify programs with strong career prospects or job placements? I know the placements in the States don't work the way they work in India. You don't have like, you're like a, okay, I don't comment on that, but it's a different process. So how can students identify programs which offer strong post-study work opportunities? Kat, do you
Yeah.
want to take this up?
I can take this. I would say all of our universities and any university that you're looking at are definitely going to have resources online regarding the career services that the university offers. And so I would say that that's definitely going to be your first stop for getting some more concrete information about what those resources look like and maybe some data points that the university might be comfortable publishing and letting you know. So for GW Engineering, I know that the university as a whole has a career services office that any student can take advantage of. And then the School of Engineering specifically has its own career services office as well that's there to be a resource to our engineering students. And so they're very plugged into the industry. They're aware of people, of companies. They make connections. They bring companies to campus so that students can have that opportunity. And they do publish information that students are willing to provide about where our alum go on to work post-graduation. So you can actually go on to our career services website and look at computer science masters. Where do those students go on to be employed? What's their average salary? Where are they living in the world? What's their job titles? What companies are employing them? So that can give you a better sense of what those career outcomes might look like for you. And that's, I know, a resource that probably a lot of universities have. And if you're having problem finding that specifically, our offices, the people in this call, we're the type of people you can reach out to be like, where would I find that? Can you help me connect with career services to learn more about those opportunities? And we're always happy to help you in that regard.
Great. Thank you, Kat. That's been useful. So my last 2-3 questions to the panel, we need to wrap up this session soon. We are going to be running over time shortly. But this question is around English language test scores. So I understand many of you do require either IELTS, TOEFL, or a PTE score while evaluating applicants. Do you have any cutoffs for these scores, or does having a high score on any of the tests help in the evaluation process? So Jenny, if you want to take it up, do you have a cutoff for the IELTS or TOEFL score at Columbia?
Yeah, we don't have a minimum test score requirement. We do have a suggestion,
Okay.
depending on the different tests you are taking. You can find those numbers on our website. So make sure you do check our website for those suggested scores. All right.
Perfect. Do any of you offer English test waivers to applicants from, let's say, since the majority of our audience is from India right now, do any of you offer English testing language waivers to applicants from India?
Yeah, BU, if your entire education was conducted in English, we will waive the TOEFL requirement.
All right, you would. Catherine, GW, or NYU, Columbia, any of you?
For GW, unfortunately, we do not offer an English waiver for students who studied in India. For us, the policy is more based on the official language of the country students have studied in. There are some countries that do qualify for an English waiver, and we have a full list that students can review, linked to on our website. I do know that Nigeria and Ghana do qualify for English waivers.
Yeah, we are the same as GW. It's based on the official language of the country, and if that is English, then it will be waived, but it's not based on language of instruction.
Jenny, something different at Columbia?
Same.
Okay. All right. Great. So do remember to check out the school's website. So first step, if you're applying to any of these schools, I would highly, highly recommend going to the application requirements on their website. Go to the official website, check it out over there, and not any third-party website, not even the seed website. Go to their official website and check out the requirements. The requirements may change year on year. So it's always great to check out the official requirements given out by the school. As Kathleen mentioned and Liana mentioned, certain countries, applicants from certain countries are eligible for an application for the English language testing waiver. So do check out if your country is one of those and if you're eligible for a waiver. And then certain universities like Boston do give out waivers if your undergraduate education or if your previous education has completely taken place in English. So check out those requirements before you submit or start working on an application for any school. Shreya, I hope this answers your question as well. And the last question which I want to take up from the audience is the role of extracurricular activities. So Shiv is asking this question, and you did touch upon, so all of you did speak about holistic evaluation of the application, but does that holistic evaluation revolve mainly around academic related activities like research or participating in competitions and science fairs, or do extracurricular activities like sports, debating, or any similar one play a role as well in the evaluation process, and how do they impact the application for someone applying for a STEM master's program in the States? Mark,
I don't
you
know
were
if this is,
okay.
sorry, I don't know if this is different from school to school, but generally applying for a graduate program, it's not the same as applying undergraduate. We don't really care about all those activities unless they have to do with why you are pursuing the specific degree. So, you know, if you played sports and then you're interested in, oh, maybe doing prosthetics for athletes who have lost a limb or something like that, that your sport or your hobby is playing into what you're interested in graduate school, then we're very interested in that. But otherwise, we're not counting up the number of extracurriculars you've done. We care more about your academics, but also, like I mentioned at the beginning, what's driving you to pursue this degree besides just wanting to get a good placement.
Yeah, I'll add to that because I think when students are trying to differentiate themselves, that's also where this is coming from. I would echo what Leanna said earlier about the storytelling part of this. If you are running an organization, if you are volunteering, if you are passionate about something, those things should be incorporated into your application. It's not just doing activities for the sake of doing them, but it's telling us who you are, what your motivation is, and what you might do on our campus, because we also do have graduate organizations as well as student organizations. They're not going to run themselves. So if you are a leader, if you are someone who's doing things that are passionate and are passionate about those, mention them, but that's not going to be the reason we admit you, because you're going to flunk out of our classes if you don't have the academic background. So to pivot a little bit, it's all about the storytelling. Tell us why it should matter.
Great. So we are sharp on the clock now. We have exceeded our time actually, but I've checked out most of the questions that have come up in the Q&A so far. We have answered most of them in some way or the other. So I'm not going to continue taking up further questions from the audience at this point. But what I do want to do is ask our panelists for some parting advice and final tips from them so that you can ace the application to top ranked US STEM programs, starting with, let me go in reverse alphabetical order now, with Liana. Liana, if you want to give any final tips to our audience today.
I think my final tip would just be, you know, kind of a summary of what we've already been talking about. We, as you can imagine, spend a lot of time talking to students from all around the world. And, you know, I get a large number of students. We got 12,000 applications last year, and a lot of those students come up and say, I want to study computer science, AI, I want to get a good placement. Everybody wants those things. So obviously, when you are putting together your application, when you are looking at which programs to apply to, you really need to search within, as we've talked about, as Mark just mentioned. You need to talk about what you're passionate about, why these goals, why this program is going to help you achieve your goals. And the reason we keep talking about this is obviously academics are important, but graduate school is also kind of an intimate experience where you're working closely with other students and faculty. Not only do they want you to be a good student, they also want to like you. They also want to be able to spend this time with you in their classrooms, in their program. They want you to be a good ambassador for their program when you graduate. And so a lot of it, that what we're talking about is infusing your own passions, your own goals, that sort of thing. That is not just for evaluating your academic credentials, but how you're going to be a part of our schools.
Thank you, Liana. Kat, if you want to go next.
Yeah, I would say my piece of advice would be to point you to a resource. Education USA is a government organization connected to the Department of State, and they are there to help students such as yourselves who are considering studying abroad in the United States, to help you to learn about the different programs and the different universities that you might never have heard of. We're all frankly well-known universities, but like Mark was saying earlier, there are some schools that you have never imagined that are in places like Dayton, Ohio, and elsewhere. Education USA is a wonderful resource to help you to learn about universities that might be a great fit for you that you're just not aware of as of right now, that might have scholarships that you could qualify for, that might be your dream school. So they have an office in New Delhi for USIEF. It's the US India Education Foundation. I'm going to put a link in the chat. I'd encourage you all to reach out to them. They can do virtual sessions. They host webinars like this where you can learn about schools that maybe don't have the opportunity to travel to India specifically. And they also can help you with the visa process, with understanding what to expect when you go for that F1 visa. They can help you do some mock interviews. Sometimes they do webinars where they bring consular officers, so you can actually hear directly from an embassy official as to what those types of processes look like. So it's a really great resource if you are hoping to study abroad in America. And I just always want to plug them. And they have offices all over the world. The New Delhi one is just for our Indian students because I know that's our largest population today. But they also have offices in Ghana, Nigeria, Middle East, all throughout Africa and Asia. So please take a look, find their closest office, and reach out.
Thanks, Catherine. Jenny, any parting advice or tips from you?
Yeah, of course. I would say do your research and make sure you self-reflect on your goals. Like my colleagues have mentioned, it's very important to know what you want. Not everyone decide to pursue graduate education, like college. So you really got to know your goals and choose the right school for you. Like Kat said, they don't offer chemical engineering. And if you're someone who's really passionate about chemical engineering, maybe her school's not the best for you. So make sure you take a second to reflect on your goals as well as your aspiration when it comes to applying, then apply to our graduate schools, all right?
Thanks, Jenny. And Mark?
Awesome. Great advice from all of my colleagues. I would say don't fixate on the things you can't fix. You cannot go back to your first year and retake multivariable calculus. You can think about the things that you have impact on. Think about who you're going to ask for your recommendation letters. How strong will their endorsement be? Think about what you're putting in your personal statement. How does it reflect who you are? What are you going to offer to our institutions? As Leanna pointed out, there are tons of people that apply. I know that Kat and Jenny also receive thousands of applications. We're in the same boat. So in order to stand out, I think you have to look introspectively, to echo Jenny's point. What are you passionate about? Why are you in this process? And ultimately, once you realize and you reread your application to make sure you don't make any mistakes, that at the end of the day, we like you and that we want you on our campus. So put thought and effort into the things you can actually change.
Super. Great. Thank you to the four of you for those amazing insights and tips. A few final parting words and advice to our audience from my side. Quick reminders. The recording of this session is available on our YouTube channel. So you can go to Seed Global Education on YouTube and check out the recording of this session. It would be up by tomorrow. or day after. In the next 48 hours, we'll also send you a WhatsApp message with the application fee waiver process for each of these 4 schools. They are posted there. Some of them have posted their process in the chat right now. So you can also refer to that, but we will consolidate their process as well and send you a WhatsApp with their application fee waiver process. In the next 48 hours, you can use those to secure your application fee and apply to them. Final reminders, some of them, in fact, many of them have exclusive scholarships available through the Seed Scholarships Fund. I posted the link to the website in the chat earlier. You can scroll up and find it, or go to Seed Global Education/scholarships and find our scholarships listed over there. There are scholarships available by more than 20 schools. And for those schools that don't have exclusive scholarships, we cover them from our end through the Seed STEM leadership or business leadership or women leadership scholarships as well. So these are $5,000 awards from our end, in addition to what you may get from the respective schools. So go check out those scholarships as well. Do remember the round 3 deadline to apply for those scholarships is 15 Jan. So you still have around a week to submit your applications. The application deadlines for many of the schools on this panel is also around this time. Many of them have deadlines around 15 Jan or within this month. So check out their respective websites. And if you are targeting the fall 2025 intake, then get started on making those applications from today itself. You don't have much time left. So go AC application, do your research, submit a strong application, and secure your admission offer and scholarships for the 2025 intake. With that, all the best to our audience. I hope you have found this interaction useful. Also, a huge thank you to our panelists today. They have taken out time to interact with all of us and share those insights. So really grateful to them for doing this. And it's always a pleasure to be hosting all of you in this such a session. Thank you once again, everyone. Have a great day and a great evening ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.